Remember that there's a process to becoming a champion. There's a process to how you play the game and a process to how you prepare. The process is the price you pay for victory. Nick Saban. We are ATG Syndicate. Myself, Jeff Black, Jason Roberson, our producer, Cinema 83, Logan Hyder. We would normally have Scooby maybe somewhere around here, but he is sick and was unable to attend the filmings for these. And today we have our guest, Meghan McNab, joining us. She is a Hyrox champion. I did not even know what that was until Robo was like, hey, I got this really cool story I want to go over. And I'm like, all right, so let's get into it. But with that being said, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you guys, you're more than welcome to be here. Definitely going to be a good time with us misfits. But with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you, Robo, so you can start breaking this up for us because it's your guest and you have a beautiful vision for today. So I want to follow you.
Yeah, so I plan on embarrassing Meghan just a little bit at the beginning and talking about how I know her. So I've known her and her husband for a long time, since Indianapolis. They are pretty much the reason I moved to Nashville. Her husband's the one that recruited me, that got me to come down. And early on, I was even staying at their house, I think, multiple times. So became great friends. But one of the things I noticed about Meghan and why I asked her to be on the show is she might be the most disciplined person I've ever met in my life, alongside you, Jeff.
You two, I'm about to be like, fuck.
You two are extreme. You don't give up. I mean, and I'm a great guy. I don't make mistakes, blah, blah, blah. But me and her husband like to have a few drinks sometimes late at night and screw around, with golf clubs out in the backyard and whatever it may be, a few friends over. She will still go to bed at 8:30 on those nights. She does not sacrifice sleep.
I never check it anytime anybody's at our house. I just go to bed in my own house.
So she has an intensity of focus, but not only is she a Hyrox champion, she's also a high-powered lawyer. She made partner at her firm very young, and then she also has a daughter. So she's done quite a few things and still balances it. She, only won the Hyrox just a couple months ago and is about to go enter another race. We'll know the results by the time this podcast airs, with the World Championships in the near future. So Meghan, just to start off, I'd love for you to tell folks a little bit about your background, where you're from, a little bit about your family, and then, jump right into what got you into Hyrox and what powers you to go for that race. What makes you interested in it?
I also got to know what Hyrox is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. You want me to lead with what Hyrox is?
No, go ahead and get it yourself, but be sure to touch ours. Otherwise, we'll be like, all right, Hyrox sounds great.
Yeah.
So a little bit background about myself. I'm from Indiana, as Jason said. I'm a certified public accountant that also went to law school and am now working as a lawyer, but I'm also a fitness enthusiast. Love to work out, and most recently have had the opportunity to actually use my fitness experience not just for myself but for others. I started programming at Booth Camp Gym in Nashville, and also started competing with my training partner, Allie Summers. So that's been fun to really expand upon that fitness experience in my life. And even most importantly, I am married to Dusty, as Jason mentioned. And my daughter, Sloan, is 9 years old. And so we moved to Nashville around probably 7, almost 8 years ago. And that, I think, is when I really started to get into fitness and just getting the opportunity to experience fitness with others instead of just going to a box gym and, being on a step mill by myself. I started getting into group fitness classes and got to kind of see how I was performing versus others. And I got to see how amazing other females were in their running and all that. And I started thinking, I can do that for myself as well. So I really just started taking the intensity up since we've been here in Tennessee. And at BC, we always had inner competitions within the gym, and I always enjoyed those. I would be competing against Allie, my training partner. We'd be going neck to neck in these competitions. And last year, we started to have the opportunity to compete and decide, let's compete together. Let's see what we can do as doubles. Did a few local competitions like the Nashville Fit Games, and then wanted to go bigger. And so we found Hyrox, and it's a hybrid race is kind of what they call it. And that basically means it's not just your marathon running or your CrossFit. It's really a combination of the two. So a Hyrox race is 8 kilometers worth of running that you split up into 8 segments. And so in between those, you're doing different moves. So you'll do a 1 kilometer run, and then you'll hop on the skier, and then you'll go back to the run, and then you do a sled push and sled pull. So it's I find it to be a really balanced approach, especially as we're getting older. I don't want to be out there just pounding the pavement all the time or doing huge lifts. I really like the opportunity to train all these different modalities and parts of my body, and Hyrox really facilitates that. So Allie and I trained for and competed in the Dallas location for Hyrox, and that was in November. It was our first race, and we had an incredible time for our first one, and we were able to win our division. And because we won, we qualified for the World Championship, which will be in Nice, France in June. That's amazing. Yeah.
So does Hyrox have any weight components to it, or is it just all cardio based?
No, there are weight components. So there's sled push, which is pretty heavy, sled pull. You'll do farmer's carries, sandbag walking lunges, wall balls. So there are weighted components to it, as well as rower, ski, burpee, broad jumps.
In comparison, what is the best times versus what you guys did? What's the elite level that you're chasing to give me perspective? So in bodybuilding that I compete in, the more of an anatomy chart that I look peeled with no body fat, the better the odds.
Yeah.
And then you're always striving for this high level.
Yeah.
What does it look like in your end for where you start to where you go to?
So for doubles, I think the world record, which was just set or just reset, is 54 minutes, and we're at mid 57. So the person that set the 54 minute, it was Lauren Weeks and her partner, and they're professionals. So they're in the elite 15. And so they came in together, very strong runners, very strong women, and set that world record. So, we would love to get closer to that mark. That's a really high bar that they set. But, I think a standard doubles time would be an hour or more. I think our goal was to be under an hour. And so when that screen popped up at the end and we saw that number, we're like, holy shit. You've never seen us smile so much, because really we don't smile that much usually. And so we were just elated to see that result.
I guess my thought goes to, and I know you got some questions you want to go, but what does your training and nutrition schedule look like? Because I eat a boat ton of food. I'm sitting here I bet you eat more than me.
Yeah. Yeah. I eat more than my husband, and he's over 6 foot.
So what are your macros, and what is your training program kind of like? And I ask this to say because you are also a partner in the law firm, and you have kids, and you have to fuel life on top of fueling this endeavor. And most people do a damn good job of starving themselves in all endeavors.
Yeah. So the nutrition is a work in progress and always has been. Diabetes runs in my family, type 2 diabetes, like my dad has it. And so I've always been eating very much for longevity and wellness, right? No processed carbs, always, at most a sweet potato, try to limit even bananas. And the higher my training intensity goes up and the more, we want to win and improve our time, the more I realize that's just not sustainable. And so it's really been a mindset shift from eating for that longevity to eating for performance. And so I have started shifting into eating that white rice and eating some processed carbs. I'll try to bake my own bread or, do oatmeal that I can make at home versus doing overly processed stuff. But I have started kind of shifting that into more performance-based nutrition. I love data. And so I'm always doing tests, and, I'll wear a CGM or I wear my Whoop, and I just got my VO2 max and my resting metabolic rate done, which was super enlightening. And from that, I'm going to probably, engage a nutritionist or something to help me further nail down that nutrition plan for what's best based on my goals. But that's really what my nutrition, I'm probably taking, I eat 3 big meals a day, and then snacks probably every 2 to 3 hours in between. And it's usually a balanced carb to protein, and there might be some fat in there, but I'm really focusing more on the carb and protein intake.
How many days a week are you training, and how long are the sessions?
I'll train 6 to 7 days, and I don't mean 7 days to mean I don't take a rest, but like my rest might be every 7th day, or it might be like every 10th or 14th day. So it just it depends. I do like I'm at boot camp 6 days a week taking the classes, which is a combination of some days are strength training classes and some days are higher intensity. In addition to that, I've started this time around doing a lot more running. So I'm running up to 30 miles a week, which is a combination of probably 3 to 4 zone 2 runs a week, 1 fast interval session a week, 1 longer, faster session, and then 1 compromised running session, along with additional strength training.
Damn.
What do you mean by compromised running?
So that's a huge thing for Hyrox, right? Like you can go out and run a 6-minute mile, or, you can run a pace. That's great. You can probably repeat it a few times. That's great. Try pushing like a 250-pound sled and then going into a 6-minute pace, and it is a whole nother ball game. So it's really working on, getting that fatigue in the legs and then being able to run. It's being able to be quick while you're tired. And so that's really what compromised running is, which is really important for Hyrox training,
Think about compromised pendulum squat. It's like doing leg extension before the pendulum squat.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
I
you're
love
welcome.
that in the mornings
You're
when
welcome.
the last workout of
You're
the
welcome.
day is a pendulum squat.
Compromised pendulum squats is what we're doing now. Now that makes 100% sense. Like that'd be something to make it hard for sure.
There are some terrible machines in Jeff's gym, and that is top 2 or 3, right up there with a vertical leg press.
Just because I like the kinkiness.
It's a
with
new
you,
one.
Robo.
It's a recent investment, and he enjoys it.
So you do something to tax your leg. What do you do to tax your legs heavily, and then you go do your run, right?
Yeah, so we'll do sled pushes, sled pulls. I mean, the rower and then going into the run is my worst nightmare. Like nothing blasts my
How do you
body like
get
that.
yourself through that? Like to me, it's easy in bodybuilding. I'm hungry. Yeah. I don't care. You told me to eat gravel. I want to do it because I want to win.
Yeah.
What's it like when you're like, oh my God? Because I mean, I'm up on stage. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, competitor 42 and 44, come back out. You're like, like
I'm 39, and some people could say that I'm getting close to the end
reveal your
already.
age, but yeah.
I'll say it because you know what? I'm damn proud that I'm 39 and keeping the pace that I am.
So do your knees start to buckle when you turn 40, or what? What's the impact of the 4 at the beginning?
It doesn't. Just more reason to push through.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can relate because there's something about more glory. There's about a good amount of pride knowing you're going to go out your way. Yeah. And that was something like back in October, I got told that, well, I don't know what all's gone on with you, but I know like if you kind of, after 29 years of bodybuilding, don't take a break for a little bit, you're going to have an issue with your spine that you're going to regret. And it was like, oh, okay. But by then I had already amassed so much that I was like proud of it. But I relate to exactly what you're saying. Like you should be proud of getting these scars on it because one day it's an injury and you're out. Yeah. Like it's over with. Like we see that all the time in football. Some guy will take the wrong cut and the ACL's out and they're never the same. So I really respect that attitude. Just give it all because you've only got one shot.
Yeah.
So FOMO, that's one thing I'm super curious about, the fear of missing out. I know you make those tough decisions to say, I'm not going to go out and drink or party. I've never even known you to really be a partier, but you still make those tough choices. Do you ever feel like you're missing out on other things?
I don't, because the choices I'm making are for the things that are most important to me. I guess if I had FOMO, it'd be, I don't know if it'd be FOMO, but the fear of regret. Like I don't want to have any regrets, which is hard to know in the time. Like I hope I don't regret the amount of time I've spent in fitness as opposed to being a stay-at-home mom and like taking care of my daughter full time. Like I hope I don't regret that. And I don't think I will because there is such a level of, desire to show her to show up for herself and to be herself, she can do that in addition to, the other things of being a mom and all that, but like, be you, be who you are. And I really want to show her that. And so that comes at the cost of not being able to be home with her every single day, but I think it's worth it.
Well, you hit something important, which is be you, be that role model. What are the things you do besides fitness just to role model, this is what a parent should be. This is what, a female should be to a daughter.
Yeah. I think having positive female relationships is really important. And I don't know that I had that growing up as much. And that's not to say that there was anything missing in what my parents did. It was just the availability of resources. And, my parents didn't go to the gym, and there's different ways to have that. But for Sloan, I want her to see women supporting women, strong ass women supporting strong ass women. And it's not at the cost of their own growth, right? Like, we're all excelling, and just because another woman excels doesn't mean I don't excel, her learning that early on, because I think that wasn't the case when I was growing up. And I think that was just in general, right? Like, not necessarily my case, but.
So I'm super curious. I mean, with that missing a little bit when you're growing up, I think it's something broader in our generation.
Yeah.
Now that women are, they're embracing physical fitness in a way that they didn't. Whereas before is, I'm going to do the minimal workout. I'm going to do just enough. Oh yeah, I'm lifting light weights to tone all the time. Now we see women who take control of their bodies, and they're going to say, I'm strong. They're going to take control of their careers, and they're going to achieve. Some men seem to be threatened by that. They're afraid to be with someone who takes that control and who's that positive, that strong force. Do you see that with any of the women in your life where, they have men that are holding them back, and how did they address that or handle it?
Thankfully, the people that we've surrounded ourselves with, I don't think have experienced that. And that might be intentional. If we surround ourselves with people that have similar goals or ideals as us, or even better, that we want to be more like. So I don't see that as often, at least for us.
I'm just sitting here. I guess the question I have is, when you go compete, you compete with a partner. Mm-hmm. Okay. Why did you choose to compete with a partner instead of doing it solo? Mm-hmm. And what's the camaraderie like with women in your sport? So, like, meaning in bodybuilding, like, we're all cool, but then we subsect out to the shit talking of each other. So that's why I was kind of curious what it was like behind closed doors. I know CrossFit's the same way, so I was curious how this is kind of set up and why you went double over single.
So I think a lot of the competitions, mostly in our gym that I'd done, were more solo. And that was fun, but we would also do team ones every once in a while. And I really enjoyed that. It's just, I started to show up more for my partner than I would possibly for myself. I started to fear that, like, if I'm just, having to answer to myself, that I might not be taking those 3 extra steps. And when I'm training with a partner or competing with a partner, I do go above and beyond. And Allie and I are very similar in that. Like, we will not let each other down. Come hell or high water, like, we're going to push through. And so we are very similar in a lot of respects with our discipline. And so the opportunity to train with her, have her push me, have me push her, it was just like, I think it was just a mutual desire to do that. And so I'm glad we've had the opportunity. In terms of, like, the camaraderie, the female camaraderie, Hyrox is so cool. And I was so blown away in Dallas, because for the kilometer run, you're basically running on the inside of a convention center. So you're running 2 or 3 laps, and there are a lot of people on that track. And we were going pretty fast. And so we'd have to yell, like, left, like, we're coming left to get out of the way. Like, I got a side stitch because we were trying to yell so much just to, like, keep going. And unfortunately, I think I, like, bumped a few people as we were running. Not,
It's a race. It's
right.
not like, it's not a friendly jaunt. You can knock people out of the way.
But the thing with Hyrox is it's there's so many different levels. It's approachable for anybody. You can do it in 2 hours, you can do it in 1 hour, and everybody finishes and everybody gets to celebrate it. But when we're on that track yelling at these people, you know, the women, they would get out of the way and then they'd be like, you go girls. Like we were yelling at them to move and they were responding by encouraging us, which is so cool and not something that I'd always experienced. And so to see that, there is a lot of support, and just even after that Dallas race, the people from the Hyrox community that reached out like, hey, I saw you guys on the track. I recognized, you know, the logo or whatever, like you guys crushed it. Like there's really a strong support system there, which I just admire.
Yeah, I actually admire how much you train and the fact that you're not hormonally destroyed like I find most women in their late 30s just doing boot camps, the lack of nourishment and so forth. So kudos to you. I was just curious about that, so thanks for answering.
With Hyrox in general, I mean, what Jeff said, the training's insane. The community I'm super curious on, because what I've seen is, unfortunately, women online seem to tear down other women to make themselves feel better.
Men do it too.
Yeah, men do too, and men tear down women a lot. There's a lot of weird dude trolls online. I see that a lot.
Yeah, that shit's getting all about women OnlyFans. Who cares?
But I'm starting to see a trend more and more in what you're saying, and I'll give you a good example. Shayna will talk to me and say, man, I saw Megan's post. I admire her a lot. Like I envy that. And I know you're starting to pay that forward. You even met with a friend of mine recently. So I'd love to hear more about what those conversations look like when someone looks up to you and they reach out and they say, hey, you know, I really love what you do. Are you offering encouraging words? Are you giving advice? What does that look like?
Well, it's starting to look different. I am known for like not sharing secrets or not sharing training strategies. So as I'm finding the opportunity to connect more with other people, like I'm realizing, you know, it's good to talk, right? It's one thing to share your training. It doesn't mean everybody's going to do the training, right? You know, you have to identify the work and then do the work. So there's that whole thing. But as I'm having those conversations, it's just, you know, trying to communicate, you know, the approachability of fitness or a race, and just, you know, trying to break it down into baby steps and to how to approach it. And just, I think communicating, I don't know, like the baseline that fitness can be in one's life. Not everybody's going to train like I do or be willing to put in the time. That doesn't mean you don't do it. And so as I'm communicating with people, I think that's like the biggest thing I want to take away with is for them to take away is like fitness can be whatever you want it to be, but it should be something. Like everybody's life should have an element of fitness or movement, and that should be the standard. That should be the baseline.
Usually people come to me for that. It's like they have these big hopes and dreams. I'm like, well, that's great. But I know firsthand that's what these hope and dreams take. And they're like, whoa. And then it starts backing out. And I'm often sad because like it's rather than see like, well, you know, maybe I could give my best and maybe that might be the better thing. And you see them walking back off the cliff. I agree with you about the sharing secrets and all that's good to do. I know that me and some of my friends out there in the space, what we do a lot of functional stuff. So we get a lot of slack for if we'll put someone on keto to drop their inflammation, fast and reset immune systems. Oh, that's hocus pocus. I'm like, well, it was, but over here it worked, you know. And I think to share that lets people know that there's not always these, like you said, silos of training or silos of nutrition, but actually it's a vast expansion of it, and you should at least have some level of something as an anchor. I agree with that. Hey, you don't like eating protein that gives you machine gun farts, do you? When you walk, sucks, right? I love Iso Perfect by New Ethics because it only has 5 ingredients in the chocolate, 4 ingredients in the vanilla. And guess what? Those machine gun farts don't exist when I take this product. Guys, there's nothing better than a whey protein isolate for fast digestion. It's got the purest ingredients and quality ingredients inside this product. I've been using it for years. Check it out. If you're currently using a protein supplement, upsets your stomach, gives you gas or anything like that, check this out. Discount code Relentless10. Remember, they sponsored a nobody like me because I had a cool story with bodybuilding and my brittle bone disease. So those are the kind of people behind this brand. An autobiography that can't resist being a self-help book. That is what Brittle to Unbreakable, my journey to redefine suffering, is all about. I can put it into so many words. My friend Stephen Pressfield, he's on the back of the cover and for his quote. But at the end of the day, it's really a journey about life, and that, yeah, it's hard for all of us. But you know what? If you kind of dig in, if you're kind of willing to work, if you're willing to just think for a little bit more and just challenge yourself, that's what you're going to find in this book. It is a raw therapy session, is what one of my friends said. And I hope it resonates with you too, because the pages might have pain, but there is power in pain. And I really believe that with my story. So please check it out. Pre-orders going on now to support me as a first-time author. Books will be shipping in April, and they'll be signed to however you want by me. Do you want to know what's going on underneath your hood? Are you wanting to know if you have low T? Have you kind of been going through life as a man lately, just listless and not even knowing? Hell, if you're a woman, if you've been waking up every morning feeling like you're walking through quicksand, these are not normal symptoms. And then you don't have to wear that badge of beating on you anymore. Well, let's take a look underneath the help. My friends at Advanced Vitality, HRT.com, are giving you $25 off a comprehensive lab panel. Now, guys, ladies, this stuff is going to tell you all your hormones, your stress hormones, your thyroid, and not the typical thyroid the doctors say, oh, your thyroid's great. Well, if that's the case, why there's so many overweight people walk around and swear they have a thyroid problem? Because most often you find it out in deeper lab work. And this is kind of stuff that they're going to give you a free consultation on with your lab work. Not everyone needs help with hormones, but they're going to help you decide. And you know what? It's always worth a conversation to have. And their sponsor ours, I think it'd do you good to get a look underneath the hood. Are you looking for more content? Are you looking for a videographer that can shoot you looking as good as I look? Then look no further than Cinema 83, Logan Hyder. He does some great work with our podcast, ATG Syndicate, ATG After Dark. He works with my good friend Joe Adams over at Relentless Pursuit, along with other endeavors he has. Check him out, Cinema 83. He's got all your needs to be able to help grow your brand and content the way you would like to have it.
Hey there, I'm Meghan McNab. You can find me on Instagram at Meghan McNab, or come work out with us at Booth Camp Gym in Nashville. You can also catch me at Worlds in Nice, France for Hyrox.
All right, so we just wrapped up that question. The answer was great, but I have the follow-up now. So many women come to me as a coach, and you know this. They are scared to death of eating. Their whole identity is tied to throwing. If they were to throw themselves out of a third-story building, their weight would actually matter. You know, but after 3 stories, what terminal velocity is what terminal velocity is. But there's so much identity tagged into the scale. And I know women will eat themselves down to 800, 900 calories, and they get fatter and fatter, and it doesn't work. How did you overcome that? Because in between segments, I was like, wow, I'm really impressed, because most women have like hormone issues, lack of nourishment, lack of eating. How do you work through that as a woman, and how do you coach other women to eat? Because that's usually the problem with most women. They just don't eat to feel what they're trying to do. Like they don't quantify, like, I'm busy, I do all these things, I need the fuel to do that. It's more, I'll starve, I'll punish myself. It's just the way to do it.
Yep. It was a process to overcome it, because I would say I was a female that did similar things. Like in my teens and 20s, I was eating as little as possible, and then I would go and be on the step mill for an hour trying to match my energy expenditure to my caloric intake, and my weight ballooned. And I was so focused on eating for physique that never came, and I just got frustrated. And so when I finally started to kind of get more into fitness for performance, I started eating for performance. And when I took the goal off of how I look and to how I functioned, it was just a revelation. And I overcame that idea that I needed to eat a certain way to look a certain way. And from that, I started eating more, and you know what? I got a 6-pack. You take your eyes off that physique goal, and all of a sudden it happens, because you're finally, filling yourself up with the foods that'll help you perform, which then also give you more of the physique. And so it has been a process I've overcome, and anymore, I I eat quite a bit, and I know it's because my body is using it. And I think that's super important. Like, regardless of whether you're training at the intensity that I am, or if you're, just trying to work out when you can because you have an immense schedule that you can't, work out as much as you want. I think just understanding that you still have to eat, and eating, 800 calories a day, it's not gonna help you in your everyday life or in your fitness life. You gotta eat.
You ever used a tripod to film any of your workouts?
Never.
Oh, I love that.
No, you just have a human being sometimes film it for you,
Yeah.
and then
Exactly.
you film them, and then you trade off, and it's perfectly fine, and it's fair.
Do you take a bunch of pictures
But you
of your
don't
food?
block space on the gym floor. Yeah.
See, that's what I like.
Yeah.
See, that's like something so funny because me as a coach, people are like, I want to see more of your workouts. I want to see more of your food. I'm like, obviously I'm doing it. Like, and to part of me, I kind of get frustrated. I'm like, I don't want to show my food all the time. There's more to me than damn what I eat during the day.
People would be blown away if they see how much food I eat. I mean,
Oh, they would, because I know I had a girl that I trained for CrossFit, and she was a little 140-pound thing, and I had her eating 4,000 calories to 5,000 on training days, just depending upon what she was doing. She would do the workout in the morning, then she would do ring work at lunch, and then she would do the nighttime class. So like
Ring work at lunch.
Yeah.
That's
So,
wow.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking, but like literally, like that, those rings are monsters to
Yeah.
work with. Like those
Those are
muscle ups.
absurd.
Yeah, and she would do that for an hour, and I was just like, okay, well, the funny thing was I had to feed her up, and then that's when her weight started dropping. And it was wild for her to see. But if women don't see that every week, like what they're eating, and this isn't getting me anywhere, well, let me go the other way.
Can you explain that to like eating more, how that actually?
It just turns on your metabolism. So what it is most people do a damn good job starving themselves, and they're not eating foods that are like micronutrient rich, vitamins, minerals, the foundation of your house. Eventually that leads to hormone disruptions, built up inflammation, and then basically you're trying to do something with a house that's on fire. It's just not going to work. So when you start having people check in weekly, like I do with nutrition, I'm sure she has a similar plan, you can start walking them up, and then they're like, oh, I feel better, and I'm not gaining weight. In fact, I poop more. Oh, and then they start buying in, and you're doing baby jumps. You're not going like you're 800 calories right to 2,000. You're like, hey, you're at 800. I'm going to start you at 1,200. Next week, I'll move you to 13, then maybe 1360, then maybe go 15. And you're playing this little game. You'll eventually get them there. But carbohydrates help modulate the metabolism and are very good for helping drop cortisol, stress hormone, and helping increase actual T3, the active component and the active hormone of thyroid. So that's why you would want to modulate the metabolism with carbs.
We have a secret unaired episode that I asked this question on, and I'm going to pose it to you, and it's very loaded. I don't think we'll ever air the episode. There's some things I came across on it that we just
Which one?
washed with Untamed.
Oh, yeah. At the
Yeah.
time we did. Yeah.
So I know your husband is considering doing Hyrox, and he's coming to you for advice, but so many men look down on women giving fitness advice. I mean, you're one of, the most successful competitors in Hyrox. You program workouts, and yet there's going to be men who are resistant taking advice from you. Why do you think men are so afraid to take advice from women who are super successful in fitness?
Because they're not men.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's unfortunate. I mean, it clearly has something to do with themselves. If somebody has an issue taking advice from me, that's on them and not on me. And I'm not going to change how I am just because of an insecurity they have or a perception they have. So luckily, Dusty is not like that. And I have his full support. And so, yeah.
Well, and that's it. If I'm going to go after some sort of race like that, you're the first person I'm going to call. But I don't fully understand
Don't call
it.
me. I would not. I'd be like,
Yeah. Well,
bodybuilding, sure, buddy.
yeah. When I was going back to do the Tough Mudder, I was like, Jeff, I'm going to run a lot. And he's like, okay. And he goes, just eat more. Here are your new macros. And so that's it. But, I started looking into zone 2 running, things like that, getting into that side of it. But Jeff, I'm curious on your thoughts on this. Why are guys so afraid to take fitness advice from women?
They're afraid to take it from me too.
Yeah.
Like I'll get guys all the time. I'm like I literally wrote one the other day. I said, please stop texting me and telling me what you did different than what I told you, and then bitching that you're not getting the result you want.
So we're hard-headed.
I think it's just more of an ego thing. It goes back to like when I got into bodybuilding, the reason I loved it was a very lonely sport, but yet it wasn't. Like I controlled my own fate. No one told me to eat the food. No one told me to show out and punish myself for the workouts. No one told me to sleep 8 hours. Like I had to do all that stuff myself. And when it comes to men, a lot of times, like we talked about with JD in our last episode about religion, men just want this like quick little answer. And it's real quick, like, ooh, I don't know. But I'm a man, so I'm an expert. It's like directions. I'm not going to ask for directions. Before GPS, and then people, I remember my dad was king of that. I think it comes down to men. Still at the end of the day, women haven't accepted that women have achieved a lot of the things that men have, and that doesn't make them disqualified in any way. In fact, I know a lot of women who are like Laura Conlon, who you've met. She's smarter than me on the nutrition diet break shit because she was in the research. I would say that all day. I have questions about that. I go to her. I don't go to one of my male colleagues, and I think that's being smart. And I think that the fact more that men could understand that women can do things like that and actually do it at a higher level. Like I can tell you right now, women can take training harder than men can. Like you could beat the shit out of a chick in a workout.
Higher pain tolerance.
Like they could take volume. Women actually do a really good job of putting muscle on. Women are like really built for it. The problem is they just don't do a really good job on the nutrition. And men, dude, you give them vitamin T, testosterone, and just tell them to eat decent and train hard, and they can like look completely different, like a short amount of time. And that I think makes them hard-headed. But what I go back to is I think it's a lineage of men who watch their dads not listen to women, or in a collaborational sense. And then they got into jobs that further was more women are put down. I know my wife tells me in some of her work sometimes, she's like, I walk in, men just immediately dismiss me before I talk about it. I'm like, well, that's a shame. But it happens all the time. I watch with female coaches. I just think it's just men just refusing to maybe grow up and just accept that they can, who gives a shit what the sex is? That's like me saying like, well, I wouldn't listen to advice from you, Robo, because you're white. But you know, Logan, if you're a Latino, I will listen to you. Like, makes no damn sense. Like at the end of the day, a qualified person is a qualified person is a qualified person. And I think we need to get into that. Like, I don't know shit about Hyrox, but if I were to ever try, I'd probably talk to you. I would die, but I would talk to you.
When I've done classes next to Meghan in boot camp, maybe a handful of times. Always got my ass kicked. Like not even a competition.
You told me about that one time you came in like limping or fucked up or something.
Probably,
Yeah.
They're like, start with a 1/4 mile run up this hill and around, and I'm like, all right, that's the workout. No, that's the warm up. Yeah, so it's an intense thing. But she destroys everyone in that gym, including me, including her husband. No male holds a candle, so would take her advice all day.
I'll finish up with this. I don't want to get to, but like in my instance, my gym there was a guy one time who wanted to sell supplements in my gym. He came and did it under the guise of wanting to hire me as a coach. And then third question, he's like, all right, have you ever heard of this supplement company? I was like, huh? And he's like, yeah, your chief of staff, she wouldn't let me through. So I just went ahead. I said, okay, hey, can you follow me up front? He goes, yeah. And so Thera's up there. I said, hey, you know this guy? And I saw her face. I said, yeah, he didn't pay attention and go through you because he didn't have respect for you. We'll never do business with this company ever again because he didn't respect you. And that's what it comes down to is respect. If people are in that position, respect them. But I've seen that all the time in the fitness industry, riddled with it. And it's probably the equivalent. My daughter wants to be a mechanic. She's probably going to get told all day long, you don't know crap about this car, and go somewhere else to a guy who does it. But that's unfortunate. But that's on the person, like you said. If they don't want to receive it, screw them. Makes them less.
They did a TV show about exactly what you're talking about, where it was a female mechanic who had taken a car and she knew what was wrong with it to these different places. And then she'd listen to the males explain to her what was wrong.
Oh, that was great.
Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Hi, sweetie. So what's wrong with your car?
They sent a guy with no experience, nothing, and they got entirely different views from different ones.
Oh, dude. I should do that experiment with my fitness trainers in my gym because I got a few females and just...
I'd trust Valerie before I trust anyone else.
Oh, Valerie's a shark, though. So, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I see the stuff she does. Yeah, she's intense, too. But I want to switch gears for a second and talk a little bit about most folks have a fear of change. You became a CPA and said, you know what, I want to be a lawyer next. And then you became a lawyer and then you decided, you know what, I want to do, this intense physical pursuit in my life. What makes you, switch so fast and then go all in and feel comfortable about it, not regrets, not hesitate?
I love, as I said, I love data and I love to research. And so when I'm thinking about something, I just dive in deep on gaining as much knowledge as possible. So it's, making the switch from accounting to law and then getting to fitness. Like with fitness, I knew I wanted to do something in fitness at some point. I just didn't know what it looked like. So I just started learning as much as possible, getting all the certifications I could, just like learning all of it. And then so when an opportunity presented itself, I would be ready to take it on. And it's worked out amazing. But I think I just try to consume as much information as I can, that when I make that leap, I make it with a full understanding or a good understanding of what it could look like. And so I do it with confidence. I think also Dusty and I are known to just make decisions and go all in. And it's very much from the aspect of, if it doesn't work out, we can fix it. But if we never make that leap, you can't do anything. Like, why spend time hesitating and then never going forward? If you could just do it, try it out. If it doesn't work, adapt, like we're very much do something and then adapt. And so I think that mindset of you're not stuck, right? You can always shift gears, do something else, continue to grow. It's all part of a learning process. Like, even if something fails, you learn from it. And I think that aspect is why I've been comfortable to make changes I have along the way.
Were you always like that in the relationship, or was that something you grew into together?
I think we've grown into it together. I mean, we've been together, as you know, since we were, 23, 22. And so we have grown up a lot together. We look physically, mentally, emotionally very different than we did at that time. And it's been amazing to grow together. And I think part of that was part of the growing process.
Any things that you give up on a regular basis that you're denying to go after these goals?
A lot.
I would say that have a little bit of regret, or the hardest ones to make that decision in the moment. Like, what are the biggest temptations to pull you away from your goals?
I don't know. I don't know that if it's that big of a temptation, then it's not in pursuit of my goals. So I don't want it anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I'm missing out on much, or I don't have any regret with stuff I'm giving up. I'm giving up probably a lot in the eyes of somebody else that doesn't have the goal that I have, but it's my goal. So it's not giving up because it's for another reason.
Yeah. And so I'm just digging in on the mindset, because you're saying something that is very different. Whereas if I were to say, Jeff, I want to get on stage for bodybuilding, and then I keep screwing up on the food because I like to have a certain food, or I keep screwing up on my workouts because I get tired and sleep through it. Like, it's a mindset, whereas yours is, I'm not even distracted by those things because I'm so focused on it. Yeah. I put blinders on. Yeah. I mean, is that just completely do you even know where that comes from in you?
I don't know where it comes from. I mean, probably my mother. I get all of my my hard-headedness and discipline and just like going all in as a strong female mindset from my mom. So I would see, like, we have that lineage in my family of very strong-willed women. And so I think it's just natural with that. And I think it's gone over well with Dusty because that's the same on his side. His mother is very strong and dominant, and his dad is also strong and dominant, but they work well together. It's not what you said before about like a male being, like not confident about a strong female. So I think that's why we've kind of been able to grow like that together.
My question I want to ask is, how many times have you wanted to quit? And what stopped you from quitting?
That the potential for regret, I would say, has kept me from quitting.
How many times have you wanted to? Is it? Yeah, no, that's what I'm getting at, because I think in every time I go through a prep, there's always that hard few days at some point, because I'm sure yours is similar to mine. There's weeks you're training to go up to this main event. There's a lot of processes. You're trying to really do it. Usually the week before of the event, everything in your life burns to ash. While you're in the process of trying to keep everything under control. So I know for me, and I don't talk about this often, But every time in my prep, I can always think of at least one time that I was like, I got a case of the fuck it's.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
And I would find myself like opening a fridge, you're just staring at it and be like, oh, I could do that. And then be like, I can't, but I can. And like, I would find myself doing it for like 20 minutes until finally like something would shake loose. So I assume you've had something similar in different ways.
Yeah, I would say, and Dusty will attest to this, that probably once or twice leading up to every competition, I have just like this mental cracking. You know, like my mental state and emotional state starts to crack, and I start to question why I'm doing it or if I want to do it. And if I just give it like 2 or 3 days, I just say, you know what, you're questioning it, but just push through. And if it continues, you can make a decision at that point. Like I know to not make a whip decision based on that, because I also know like my brain lies to me, right? Our fear gets us to lie to ourselves about what we really want. And I know if I quit, I'm old enough to where I know if I actually quit that I will just have so much regret. And so it's just giving myself time to mentally work through that. And I always come out the other side and I'm like, oh, that was just one of those moments. You have those. And so now I just know, okay, this is the time, this training cycle, this is the time where I start to mentally crack, get through it, and you'll gear back up.
I appreciate the honesty of that answer.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, yeah. Sign the mic.
So
Take that mic.
We're getting better at the pass off. So I guess for both of you, you can answer if you'd like, but that you kind of talk about that cyclical almost, right? Like you're in that cycle of going to compete, and then that tends to happen at some point, right? So is that like moment where you're having to like, you have the case of the fuck it's, or you're like, you said you start feeling that crack. Is that usually because of like the pain of the physical discipline of training every day, or is it like anxiety about the competition?
I would say it is the pain that your mind goes through in anticipation of the physical pain, if that makes sense. As I mentioned, it gets to be a very dark place in some of those training sessions, both from a physical feeling, but also the mental side of knowing you're about to encounter that physical feeling, and you're butting up against it every time you do one of those hard training sessions, which isn't daily, but like it's a couple times a week that you're going to butt up against that end point, and knowing that you have to encounter that over and over. If it happens too often, I think that's when you get into that situation.
For me, what bothers usually was giving the cracks to me at times was there in the last few years of my competing was fellow competitors of mine, because I was expected to show up looking a certain way. And I remember at Masters Nationals, I had dieted the fat out of my feet, and I was wearing shoes everywhere because I couldn't walk on the hard ground. This is 3 weeks out. The fat pads in my hands were gone, and my face, he remembers, was all drawn in, and I still thought I was fat because I was still seeing other competitors. I'm like, well, why even show up? This could be my swan song. Like, I'm going to be fat. And then the photos next day, I'm like, okay, I made them all look fat when I stood there. So it's this mind screw, and I go through it in every competition. What it was for me is because a lot of people suffer from this social media. You're always comparing yourself. And once I kind of stopped doing that, it's been way more enjoyable for me. But a lot of that early on, it was the self-doubt, the pain of what I was going through because I wasn't used to it. But then as I got used to it, I was like, oh, this is easy. I'm used to starving. This isn't bad. I just have to, the workouts suck. I just have to grind through them. But then you start seeing your competitors and you're like, oh my God, like I'm real behind. And it's a very weird, that's what started tripping me up in the last little bit.
I think,
I was about to say, you fix that other part.
yeah, that self-doubt, I think it is huge because like you said, on social media, you're seeing all these people and it's like, oh, I see, all these people posting all these like really hard and intense workouts they do. And I start to question, like, am I doing enough intensity and all that? And I have to remind myself that Instagram is a point in time and it's not everything that they're doing. And it's training smarter, not harder. So while it might sound like I do a whole lot of intense sessions, I do also a lot of zone 2 stuff. And it's so like, I'm just trying to be smarter. And it's like doing all those hard sessions doesn't necessarily mean you're outworking me, right? Work is not the level of your heart rate. It's not tied to your maximal heart rate every single session. So keeping that in mind, I think, as you said, self-doubt, that is a tough one.
That's a good question.
Whenever I see you posting, it's rarely alone. So Allie, of course, your fellow competitor is in there, but I always see other folks around. So it seems as though you built a little community. Where'd that come from, and what role does it play in your training?
Yeah, I think the community aspect is huge, and it comes from the boot camp gym. They've built a gym that has an incredible community that's supportive. You brought up earlier the male-female dynamic, and males being comfortable around confident, strong women, and that is present there. That there is the women will compete against the males, and there is mutual respect and support. And so there's a wonderful community there. And, we've kind of built, we've been training with that community and really built a fun support system.
Yeah. And I even saw they travel with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have your own cheering section that travels around?
We do. We have our entourage, and it's amazing. Our friend Diane knows we love the song Edge of 17, which is like this 1980s song. And when we were in Dallas doing Hyrox, I'm really feeling like we were dying. She asked the DJ to put on Edge of 17, and it came in during our final run in our final station, and I heard it. And it just brought me all the joy to finish strong. And so that's just one example of how amazing our community team is. And they are traveling with us to DC as well. So we will have our cheering squad there.
Edge of 17?
Yeah. I don't even know who sings it.
Do you even know why you like it, or just?
I don't. I think it has a good strong beat. And actually it came up a few times after class. Allie and I will hit the ski erg, and we'll just do hard interval sessions, and a few times that song was on, and it just that beat just resonated with that time of overcoming the hardness. And so now it just it might be a go-to for those times. And
here's why I ask, because I know you've got we're both big readers. I know you read as well, and we've all read Stephen Kotler, and he talks a lot about flow. And so sometimes music is used to trigger that flow state. I'm curious, is that what you use to get into that mental place, or how do you get into that mental for performance state?
Yeah, I do use music. We do a bike challenge every December, and so I do a lot of the Echo Bike 1 mile bike challenge. I do a lot of training for that, and so Pink, the artist Pink, is my music for all of my bike rides, and there are a few songs that'll just get me into that place where I forget about what I'm doing, and I just get a push through. But getting into that flow state, I think, is huge. And sometimes I think for me, it's just moving. The more I just once I get moving, I can just focus on the steps, and that's what kind of carries me in.
And how do you, we focus so much on fitness. How do you still perform at work at a high level?
Some people might question that.
Yeah.
Edit. No.
Yeah.
I think fitness, I always try to do at least one of my workouts in the morning, because it sets a stage for my day, right? I've already accomplished something hard before a lot of people have even woken up. And so I think doing that is a good mental start to then deal with other hard things, right? If you can deal with one hard thing, you can deal with others. And so that's I think that helps me.
So let's talk about goal setting. You, decide on these big endeavors. Are you setting some goal for a year from now, working back? Is it a daily goal? Is it a weekly goal? How do you structure your pursuit?
Probably, my answer is probably not going to be great, but I haven't always been great at goal setting. I would say trying to get to Worlds has been the biggest, most long-term goal that I've had in a while. And it's actually paid off, because I'll do more micro goals, which I think allows me to adapt more, to be open for opportunity as they present themselves, which has really worked out well the past year. Making huge long-term goals has kind of been scary to me, I guess. Just having being able to identify the goal, I think, is the hardest thing. Whereas with Hyrox, it's pretty, it's pretty clear what the goal is going to be. Yeah.
Clear definition.
What
exactly?
Can you define micro goal? What that looks like? Maybe an example.
Yeah. So, micro goal, just something short term that I can train for within a few weeks' time and then hit if it's fitness related, or just something smaller, not, a macro goal I think of as multi-year, whereas micro might be 1 year or less.
Does the business world bore you?
Am I supposed to answer that completely truthfully? No.
Well, no, because I asked because you could tell when the Hyrox and all that stuff like that, you're really it's an underlying motivator. It's the motor, right?
Yeah.
And it almost seems like when we've touched on like you're being a badass partner and the CPA in the path that was most like, yeah, I just kind of did it.
Yeah.
It almost seems like you maybe have felt like you've maxed out there and there's this whole other world over here for you to kind of explore and create and draw. And so that's why I asked that question, I guess.
Yeah, I think I think that's probably accurate. I don't know. Like, there's different ways to approach being a lawyer. Like, you can try to get as many clients as possible and get the most points in your law firm as possible to drive up your compensation even more. But I think for me, compensation for being a lawyer isn't like, I've never been like, oh, I need to be paid more, or oh, I want to make more money. We make the money that allows us to lead the life we want to lead, and it's not an excessive life. And so to the extent that I'm, trying to pursue law to build up my compensation, that just doesn't exist for me. Like, I'm happy doing the job I do and getting paid the amount I'm paid because it allows me to also pursue these other goals. And so if I were to try to excel more in my law field, it would come at a cost. And it's, it's a balance of what is my focus and what am I wanting to pursue all at once.
Good answer. Sorry if it felt like a trap question. It really wasn't. It really wasn't, because I was just kind of like, I feel like you're all in on this on worlds, like something. And I know that because he's interviewed one of my closest friends, Cade, who literally sacrificed his whole life to be able to turn pro in bodybuilding. And now it's like, there's nothing else there. Yeah. So I have a question for you. That being said, now I want to pass it to you. Once you get this goal, what's the next thing for you? Because often, have you noticed, the more you win, the more hollow it feels.
Yeah. When coming off like the Dallas competition, we won, and it was that week or two period where it's like, well, what the fuck now? Which luckily we have Worlds coming up, so we did have that natural next step.
Post-competition blues.
Oh, it is rough. So Hyrox just added pro doubles. So I think we might explore maybe that next year, but there's also, I think hybrid racing is really, continuing to grow. And so there's like DECA and there's like obstacle course racing and there's all these different things. So I think we'll probably check that out, see if we want to do any of those, but I think my eyes are open for what comes next. But yeah.
Do you think that thinking about that will take away from your possible success at that?
Yes. So I try not to think beyond that. And my parents will attest to how frustrated they get with me because being retired, they're trying to plan their vacations for 1 or 2 years out and trying to make plans to visit us. Yeah. And they've now come to understand, like, I am focusing on our next step, which right now is DC. After DC, we'll decide if we do another race before Worlds. I have to think of segments in time just because from the aspect of I don't want to lose focus on the next step, but also I don't want to always be focused too far in the future because I really want to enjoy, experience, and appreciate the now. So it's kind of multi-aspect, but yeah.
My parents just did the same thing where they said, hey, we rented a house in Florida on the beach for 2026, the spring. Oh, yeah, you should come down for a week. And I was like, all right, I can't think that far in advance. I don't know.
That's exactly it.
Are you kidding? But that's kind of retirees where they want to just constantly plan that stuff, book it because they don't want to miss out.
Yeah. And that's just not the life that we have right now. I'm sure that'll be the future. But with kids and fitness goals and work goals, it's not practical to think that far ahead for us.
Yeah.
We have to think that far ahead in bodybuilding. Like I always had to think a year or two out because that's how much time I had to go through to get bigger, to make the change that I need to make, and then hold it and then go back down. So it speaks to individuality, but I can also relate to the whole, I didn't want to get ahead of that next show. Like I was just trying to show up at that show and be injury free and actually be able to do it. And then after I'd be like, well, people, what do you do if you win that show? You go pro? Well, it's like, I don't know who's going to show up, you know, and whip my ass, let alone what comes on the other side. So I like that answer. That's a good one.
Well, one of the things I know about Meghan, and she's touched on, and we talked about it a little bit with Kate, is she found balance. And most people never find it. They're just thinking, I got to grind, I got to kill myself. And it's like, no, there's a way to balance. It's not easy to find. But once you find it, you kind of figure out, I don't know, a secret code.
See, I don't know if I ever could say I found balance, but I found peace.
Yeah.
And maybe that's maybe I found a balance with peace. But for me, I was kind of like, you know what? I'm always striving for something people are wanting to tell me I need to have, but that ain't me. But this makes me happy. As long as everyone else around me kind of is manageable, then maybe that's my balance. But I have a lot of peace from what I do. And I understand it's extreme, but I have a lot of peace from it. You feel that same way?
I think that's really good. I saw there was a quote about balance. It's not equilibrium. It's an ever-changing state of intent and action. That resonates with me because our life is not balanced, or at least balanced in the traditional scale sense. We're not equal, right? My goal is this. Something has to give, but is it giving in the least way possible that allows me to still do all those things? And so finding peace with the fact that it's not going to all be equal and all perfect at once, I think that's huge.
You got something to say, and then you want to pass or what?
Go for it. Okay. I got one.
I probably the balance thing is something on a daily basis. Like me and my fiance have these kind of conversations. Like I'm intensely passionate about that subject because I think like the equilibrium thing, that's where people get that wrong.
Yeah.
Like just because I say I believe in balance does not mean that I think everything's 50-50. That is such a childish way to look at it. You can drink too much water and drown. You can there is a proper balance for everything. It's like you were talking about earlier, you were talking about like marginal return, right? And that kind of thing. There is a maximum return that you get before you start to lose return, and then eventually it actually becomes a negative.
The law of diminishing return.
Law of diminishing return. That is what balance is. There's like for you, for example, if you're we use the term extreme, right? Because you are like one of the most disciplined people I've ever met type thing. But for you, that's the correct balance. That doesn't mean you're not in balance. That's why you're at peace, because you are at the correct balance. But for you, the intensity is 90%, whereas for somebody else, maybe it's 75, 65. But that's their balance.
To me, I didn't think there was going to be anything enjoyable unless I gave myself 100% to bodybuilding.
Exactly. And that's okay. It's like, and when you back out on balance too, and that's why I'm like busting over, because it frustrates me sometimes when you hear people talk about this and they're like, no, because I got to go 100%. When you back out, sometimes you do go 100%. Sometimes you don't go at all. Mm-hmm. So the more, even if you zoom out, that's still balance. Just because you go 100% or zero, it's still balance.
And it's balance for you.
Exactly.
Who the fuck cares what other people think if you're balanced or not?
Waiting for an F-bomb.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we got her warmed up.
Welcome.
She did one. She said one earlier. She said, what the fuck do we do now? I caught that. Yeah, I just had to say that because I love that topic of balance, and that it's more of a marginal or the law that we just talked about, and what that proper balance is for you, and that's why I think you found that peace and stuff. And I love that topic, so I just want to throw that one out there.
I think it's also ever changing, right? Like what today looks like in order to be quote unquote quote balance is different than tomorrow, right? And just understanding that things shift day to day, year to year, decade to decade.
Have you ever taken the Strengths Finder test?
You say it's a horoscope.
I do think it is in a lot of ways, but I'm super curious. That one's not as bad as Myers-Briggs is just a straight horoscope.
That's a horoscope.
The DISC, I think, is also on that borderline. Strengths Finder, you can find out a little bit about what motivates you, but my guess is achiever would be number one. You just seem to enjoy taking tests. I don't know why, but you took the CPA test, you took the LSAT, then you actually passed the bar, and you take these fitness challenges, which in a way are tests. So is that the actual motivation? It's some sort of reward system that activates when you achieve that?
I don't know that it's that final test. I think it's a process. I find that I love the training or the steps figuring out what those steps are, right? Like the strategy behind it, the execution, the discipline to execute, like that's what I love. I often come to like the end, the test, and I'm like, do I really want to do this? As you said, the doubt. But it's because I really just enjoy the process, the research, the, action, all of that.
Dude, I absolutely hate in bodybuilding. I have to shave all my body hair off, put this fake tan on that makes me dark as the floor, stink for 24 hours, and get out there and pretend I look beautiful posing in these banana hammocks. If you could just, I love the fact that what got me there is I'm judged upon how much I was willing to starve myself compared to other people, how hard I was willing to still never give up when I wanted to. That's the part that I like about the training. Most people, when you talk about the competition days, it's like, yeah. And so I think almost sometimes you just don't want it to end.
Yeah.
Because the competition blues is on the other side. So someone's like, ooh, and push it away.
The mindset that we've been having lately is the competition. It's the celebration for the hard work you put in, right? You get to test
That's a good way of looking at
all that you've done. You face the hard things along the way. Let's just celebrate where we've gone.
Did you enjoy studying for the bar?
I would just like study for the bar while I was like on the step mill or on the treadmill at the gym. So I didn't hate it. I guess that one's probably different. But
You might be the first person I've ever heard say that.
It was just casually.
Yeah. I just studied, or, the CPA exam. I mean, did you enjoy that process as well?
I mean, I was studying for the CPA exam like on our honeymoon.
Romantic.
Among all the other, I don't know that it was just one more thing, right? Like when I was studying for that, I was going to law school, working full time and getting married. Like it was just another thing that I had signed up to do. And so it was a task. I don't know that I enjoyed
When has your life
it.
been slow? Yeah.
I never.
And
Never.
Is that
Yeah.
difficult for you when it is slow?
Yes.
Vacations, are those tough for you?
Yeah, a little bit. I just, if I don't have so many things going on, I find that I become inefficient, right? Like I just dilly-dally and it's not, I'm not progressing in anything. And so having multiple things on my plate, you have to be efficient and you can't waste time.
I agree with that.
Even on vacation, the times I've been away with you and Dusty, you keep your routine. You don't let that go. Yeah. So is that, a momentum, I guess if you stopped, you'd probably lose the momentum, but you never even consider losing momentum when you keep that.
It's because it's my baseline, right? Like it's standard. It's brushing my teeth. It's drinking water. It's getting a workout in, whatever that looks like.
Have you ever skipped a time and then tried to go back and fell apart, or has it just always been straight through?
It's just always been straight through, I think.
And I feel like that's different from most people, because most people, they go on vacation, they go, I'm going to take a break for a bit. I'm not going to eat quite right. I'm not going to, go running in the morning, which you go to the beach at 5 a.m. and run down. That's dedication. Most people throw that away and then they come back and it's harder and they're struggling and it's like they're uphill again. It's a huge difference. I'm just noticing in your mentality versus everyone else who doesn't quite achieve that same level.
I think like years ago, that was probably how I was. I would go on vacation, just eat a lot of things and drink a lot of things, like you said. But anymore, I mean, why does excess food intake, alcohol intake have to be the celebration? What if the celebration is getting to move my body in a beautiful scenery? I love running on the beach because it's not on a treadmill or it's not in my neighborhood. It's a celebration, the fact that I get to move every day and now I get to do it while looking at the ocean. So it's just like a different mindset for what celebration and letting loose or whatever you want to call vacation is.
Do you still have a glass of amaretto?
I don't. I had to quit that shit.
Amaretto? You quit it? I never thought that was a thing. It doesn't taste good. She's the only one who
amazing. It just started keeping me up at night. I just realized alcohol right now doesn't have a place in my life. Like it's just not worth it for me.
Yeah, he's done that about me. I drink just a couple of times a year, and it's usually with them, and that's really about it.
Yeah.
Like, because what you said, like when you're training at this level, and you know that at any moment you can go out at any time from just something simple, you always go back to, is that really going to be how, like, oh man, I missed a training session or it wasn't my best, or, and then what if that injury caused that? There's just certain things I can respect that. And like you said, I think when people at the gym will be like, you know how it is, man, just life happened. I can't relate to that answer. And I'll usually pass it like, yeah, I get it. Because I do if we're talking to other people, but internally I'm like, that's furthest from what I could accept for myself, but okay.
You're killing it in a lot of different areas. You're working your ass off. However, they'll think, all right, that's completely unattainable for me. And I think you mentioned it earlier, 10 years ago, you weren't this committed to the fitness side. So if someone's starting to stair step into that side and say, hey, that's a goal of mine. Yeah, I didn't mean to make that joke, but I'm kind of proud of it. Yeah, I'm getting better. What are those baby steps that they start taking in to build to the level that you're at now?
Knowledge, as I mentioned earlier, whenever I go to do something, I just start learning. So it's, I think, kind of starting to explore what it is exactly that they want to get into, and then just getting ideas on how they can get into it, I think is a good first step, maybe.
Yeah. And then going to classes, building that community, things like that.
Yeah, I think finding a place, if it is a fitness goal, I think finding a place where you enjoy the people around you, I think is a huge first step. Fitness isn't naturally fun for people. I think the like what they feel when they're lifting or running, it's a lot of discomfort. So I don't think that naturally is fun. And if that isn't fun for you, then I think finding a place where you're surrounded by people that are fun helps a lot. So finding a community or finding, more of that entire environment that will make you forget about what you're about to encounter.
Yeah. So Jeff, you got one more intense one.
Yeah, I think my question I would ask at this point, if there was a woman out there who is younger, because you have a daughter, what would you want her to know about your story and the limitations that don't really exist, and that you put those chains on yourself?
Yeah. I think what you said, that limitations don't exist. Your mind will tell you that there are limitations, but they truly aren't there. And so just keep moving forward and being you, and don't apologize for being you, I think is huge. Like,
yeah, I want to put a plus. It just dawned on me because it wasn't the best question I worded. You actually have typical roles in a life. Like today, women don't have children or don't do this, but you fit. You like have big time job. You kick ass all the time, and then you raise a daughter who, once the clock hits 4, you're totally in Sloan's world. You've done that in a time where society is telling women you don't have to be these roles. Do you find that those roles have helped you achieve more than maybe other women around you who didn't go into those roles could have?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of get some internal drive knowing I might be doing more or experiencing more than others. And so I think filling my plate and trying to manage all these things kind of internally drives me. I think I lost the question though.
No. Yeah, because what it is today in today's world, you have this gender role assignment. You have a lot of women who are like, I don't want that. You don't need that. But yet here you are, you did it. Plus you went and did what the hell you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And you don't really see that from a lot of women. You're hearing narratives being told, do this, whatever. And same with men, right? But here you are, you just sat down in roles that most people would say are traditional.
Yeah.
And you crushed it.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that gave you an advantage to other women who didn't, because you had almost like this strong foundation to go by? Or do you say
people in general, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the support system that I have in each of those things, I have my family and I have my law firm, and that are all tremendously supportive. And then I have my gym, and they're all tremendously supportive. And I think the support that each of them have, which isn't siloed, right? My family supports me in the gym and at work, and my law firm, when we won in Dallas, a firm-wide email went out about it. And so there's support there for all those things. So I think kind of having all of those be not buckets, but instead kind of all together, so I can kind of do it all together, has been the support that crosses imaginary lines, I think, has been why I've been able to succeed.
good answer.
I know we've had some conversations in my house, not you and I, me and Shayna, and we'll talk about, oh man, we're so tired, we're pressed for time. And then it has come up before. We're like, how the hell does Megan do this? Like, we got to stop making excuses because, yeah, that's it. It's you put your head to something, you do it, and you get rid of the distractions. I think that's the difference between you and just about anyone else that I know is there's blinders on and you just go after it. The rest of us will make excuses, we'll get distractions, and not to say those don't come up, but it's very, very obvious you give into those much less than the rest of us.
I think it's focusing on what you gain and not what you lose.
That's
It's
good.
not about what you give up, but what you gain by doing what you're doing.
It's a positive, not the negative, as the motivating force. That's a really good point. Yeah.
I'm good. You
Yeah.
want to close up with the final one? You got anything you want to ask us? I don't know. We tried that in the last one.
Yeah, you completely put her on the spot.
Put her on the
man.
spot,
Yeah.
say,
We've been interrogating you for
I've been
an
like,
hour
we've
and
been
a
drilling
half.
on the corner for an hour and a half.
Good question though. Ultimately, it was a good question to be asked.
Yeah.
When are you going to do Hyrox, Jason?
Ooh.
Not the question you wanted her to ask.
I kind of want a 4 in front of my age to compete in that age group
That's
because I
exactly
feel
what
like
Dusty said.
yeah, because I feel like me going against a 30 or a 31-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's out there. There's the Hawaiian decathlon
Okay.
is more a goal of mine. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's running, biking, kayaking, swimming, and some other modality. I think rucking.
Okay.
You can do it with a team or individually. I really want to do that at some point in the future, but haven't figured out exactly when. And I would rather do that in a team for that motivation aspect, or a partner. I don't want to do that solo. Like if you're rucking through the jungle solo, that sucks.
Kobe and Joey are your boys. They like all that crazy activity stuff. They do all that.
You got to get Joey to stick with it. He's in, then he's out, right?
No, if you give him a timeline to it, he'll train for it.
Yeah.
He will, because it's very unique. But then he'll be done. He'll do one and done. But
Yeah.
he'll do one and done. But no.
I got to get Megan for our ringer and Allie. They can carry the load on that.
Yeah, no
We'll
shit.
go to Hawaii. Sounds amazing.
And Dusty can jump in, your
Oh, yeah.
husband, and
I bet he'd be good at
because I
the
want to do
kayaking.
it's something with kayaking or rucking. I don't want to run that much.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll
there
take
you
it.
go.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would like to go to Hawaii, but unless Iowa changes their ruling against me, I'm a sovereign citizen with no identification from here on out. So I won't be able to go.
Yeah,
a long time trouble.
It's a long story for
Long
another
story,
day.
but I'm willing to. I'm actually going to try to go without a driver's license so I could get pulled over and arrested. So that way I could go to the Supreme Court of Tennessee and fight my way through it. It's my new strategy. That's probably not brilliant, but you know, the guys don't follow me. Don't follow me for any advice.
I didn't know what that was till Danny was talking about
Yeah, but nonetheless, I would go otherwise. So if something changes, you know, anyone out there, ladies and gentlemen, I can go. You know what? I can just renounce my citizenship, and then I can just go at that point. Probably.
And then you
Be
can't
better.
be here.
Yeah, but I am here.
Yeah. I'll report you. If that happens, can I sell your gym?
Sure.
All right.
No, I'll let you. So I would, dude. I'm gonna hire.
citizen anymore. Yeah.
No, seriously. Like I already told everyone. I was like, Robo's selling my gym one day. I'm just gonna be like, go on vacation for a week. Here's my books. Send me a text that way I can scream in a pillow privately, far away from people.
There you go. Well, Megan, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it's not often you see someone so focused and determined, and it's amazing to see, and it's very cool to see how you progressed in the 10 years we've known each other as well.
That was badass to hear someone who like kicks ass as mom, kicks ass as a wife, kicks ass as a businesswoman, and kicks ass like in a business that you're growing over here while competing at a high level over here.
We didn't even bring up her husband travels all the time too.
Yeah, I know we didn't get into that, and so that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say. There's like these like 5 pillars already that, and right now I'm thinking of how many people don't stay with me as a coach, fire me as coach because they got well, it's hard on my time. It's like okay. You know what I mean? So thanks for sharing that insight. And I think what we talked about for women today will be huge, especially just some of that stuff's great.
I just want to throw something in if I could borrow that just for a second.
So my fiance I've touched on a couple times. She's in school right now to be an interior designer, and we don't have any kids. I'm 28. She's 27. So she literally just said this to me maybe yesterday or a couple days ago that it started to like creep into her mind, like things that people. It's like, well, damn, I'm going to be starting a career right at the time they say, well, you really should have kids by now, type thing. She's like, okay, well now I have a kid. Well, I just started this career and I got to take maternity leave or like whatever. And she's starting to like kind of freak out about it. And so, like what Jeff said, I think it's really important, like what you're talking about here, because you are a partner's law firm. and you compete and you have a kid. And it's not just that you have a kid at 4 o'clock, like Jeff said, it's all about her, like, so yeah, I just would second that it's really important for women to hear, because a lot of times, in kind of his question earlier, it's almost like you're told to pick one, and it doesn't seem like you've settled with that mindset at all. So
we need to throw out this idea that we're in silos and that we can only do so many things. I mean, who came up with that in the first place? Fuck them, because I do what I want.
Men need to hear that too, because I mean, we're the ones who make excuses, and then we're the ones who ignore advice. I'd argue we're more stubborn. Women are more likely to listen to women. Men won't listen to anyone. Men, women, they just don't care.
Yeah, no, we got a whole After Dark series because suicide rates going up because men don't talk or listen. Yeah.
Yeah, we're stubborn, but yeah, it can be fixed slowly.
Yep. As long as we keep our open minds going.
Yes.
Cool.
Good job.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time.